Hello there, Hollows, and welcome to the 4th episode of Fundamental Flaws. This is the series where you guys tell me a design flaw you feel is present in any FromSoftware Souls-like, and I will discuss what I think maybe could have been done better, and I'll be selecting 4 or 5 flaws for each video. Before we begin though, make sure you comment your own flaw down in the comments below if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Fundamental Flaws 2 weeks from now. As I always say, I'm trying to stick with Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2 and Bloodborne currently, but if you do have any issues with Dark Souls 3, Sekiro or Elden Ring, then still leave them down below and I'll consider them if they make for a good enough talking point. Just like last time, we're starting off now with a generic flaw across all Souls games for today's first flaw. And it was sent in this time by Colin Crompton, and he says, "A niggle I have is having to retrieve your souls, runes or blood echoes in boss rooms. Team Ninja knew that this was an issue, and in the Neo games, your Amrita, which is the Souls equivalent, is returned to you on re-entering the boss room. I would have liked to see the system in Elden Ring." Now, I definitely agree with this. It's one of the small things which it does just kind of make the bosses even more frustrating, and it makes you not want to always go straight to a boss if you've got a considerable amount of souls and you want to instead go back, spend them all and then go to the boss again. And I think this is made even more frustrating if you have quite a considerable boss run, so quite a big extended part of the level that you have to battle through to get to the boss, because if you get quite a few souls on the way to the boss and then you die to the boss, all those souls are just then lost essentially if you don't get back, because sometimes you've got to run back, and especially because of the fact that a fog gate essentially traps you inside that area unless you manage to homeward bone out. It just makes it very frustrating, especially if you run up to the boss, you do the boss run several times, keep acquiring more and more and more souls, and then die. You could have quite a few souls in that boss room, and it is something that's just needlessly frustrating, and it's something that's needlessly annoying all the time. Because the reason why they haven't changed it probably is because Hidetaka Miyazaki likes to say, okay, the reason why your souls are left in a certain place and why you can collect them is to incentivize you to keep progressing, and then you want to get back to the point that you're at, and if you get back to where you were before, then that is when you get those souls back, and it's sort of trying to encourage you to get better and better every single time. And it's probably a similar system with the bosses. They think, okay, we want you to get into the boss room and then battle it a bit and then collect your souls to try and stay alive in that boss room a little bit longer. I can understand it, but I don't agree with bosses, to be honest, and the boss room. I think Team Ninja, like he says here, Team Ninja, I think, do it better, and I do think your souls probably should be returned to you every time you enter the boss room. The second flaw for today has been sent in by Ash B, and they say, "I think in general, a flaw of the Souls-like games is just the lack of a lore log. While I don't mind having to piece together tidbits from various items, the fact that I have to choose between selling items or just stashing items away and losing out on using valuables to also keep all the information gathered is an annoying thing to deal with, especially since if your character can instantly be granted random knowledge about every item they find to instantly grab said items, they should have the decency to jot down that info to come back to later in a gathered location. If the game expects me to connect numerous notes together to weave together a story, the game should be kind enough to let me have a semi-organized list to keep that information together in an item log." Now this is something I'm actually not sure about, because a lore log tends to be, it's not really that common in games, I don't think. There aren't really that many games that have a kind of lore log system which allows you to review information that the game has given you. And I think, I don't know, maybe I'm just a sucker for the way that the Souls games do things, but I kind of like having to sort of keep things and review things and piece things together in that kind of way. And I'm not sure. I do kind of understand what you're saying here, Ash, and I think it probably would be a more convenient system, and it wouldn't really take away from the way the game does things by just keeping that in a section in the menu or something which you could review anytime you wanted. Maybe have it so that it, to be honest, I can't think of a reason why I wouldn't like that, but a part of me does think, well, you can look these kind of things up online anyway, and a lot of times when you're doing that thing, you're piecing together the story. A lot of the times, many people do just go onto the Dark Souls wiki because all the item descriptions are on there anyway, but then again, in future games, there's no reason why they shouldn't just have it so any item you've discovered, the description for it is always saved in a part of the menu. There's really no reason why not. So I agree with this, and I do think this would be a nice change for those people that really like the story of the Souls games to be in future installments. Now, for this third flaw that's been sent in by Sophie E, they say, a gripe with Sekiro then. My problem with the Spirit Emblem is its requirement for all prosthetics, which severely hampers a player's ability to use the prosthetic arts in mainly boss battles, since the Spirit Emblems run out so quickly, and then you're basically locked in the katana-only fight style. This could have been alleviated with some sort of gourd that refills your spirit, i.e. more of a mana bar basically. Now, I personally think when I played Sekiro, I didn't really get too far in Sekiro. It's the only game I haven't really beaten at this point. But my issue that I think they should have done with Sekiro is have it so it's on a cooldown, essentially. I think have it so you can use it and then you got to wait a little bit and then use it again, and balance that cooldown for the different kinds of prosthetic arts that you use. I think that would probably be a better system, because I agree when I was playing the game, the Spirit Emblem system just felt like a needless frustration and a needless way for you to have to spend your money in that game to buy these things, which to me I'm thinking, like in Bloodborne, you had an infinite amount of ammo essentially for your gun in that game, and you could always use, why don't they just use it like a similar system to Bloodborne, so you can get more Spirit Emblems by injuring yourself, and then you'd have to recover your health back yourself, like by using a gourd. Do it that kind of way. I don't see why they would have had to tie it to Spirit Emblems. It feels like a dated system that they sort of got rid of in earlier installments by, I don't know, it felt like needless frustration in the game. Today's fourth flaw has been sent in by Hayden the Third. This time they're at the fourth spot in the video instead of the third spot like last time. They say, a flaw for Dark Souls 2 is the fact that the Estus Flask is utterly useless. Life gems are affordable, they're practically infinite, and you can walk while healing. In my playthrough, by the end, I had like 4 + 2 Estus Flasks because I didn't bother looking for Estus Shards, because I just had an infinite supply of life gems, which in that game are an infinitely better heal. They heal over time, so it's damage done and damage which could also possibly done in the future, and again, being able to walk while healing just makes it a no-brainer. I definitely agree with this, and it's one of the many weird changes that Dark Souls 2 does to the healing system and many other mechanics in the game. I think the Estus Flask is a crucial part of the fantastic balance that Dark Souls 1 strikes with the healing system and the player control difficulty. And therefore, I think Dark Souls 2, having the life gem system, essentially the way that it's done and how cheap you can get them, just basically breaks the game, in my personal opinion. You can buy that many life gems for that cheap right there in Majula. It literally does break the balance of the game, and it does, like you say here, Hayden, it renders the Estus Flask completely useless because there's no reason to use it. I always tended to use it as like a last ditch attempt, or if I was running low on life gems and I really needed another source of healing, that's when I would really use my Estus Flask. But otherwise, you're always much more beneficial to use life gems, and there's certain boss fights where using life gems literally just means you can get through that boss in seconds. You can play insanely aggressive, just constantly fight the enemy and tank damage because you know the life gems are going to keep healing you again and again and again. And it fundamentally breaks the balance of the game, and I think it's a huge issue, and I'm hoping that eventually maybe they will remake Dark Souls 2, and if they do, that is a system that I would like to see them address. The final flaw for today has been sent in by 64-bit Mario, and they say, the flaw with earlier Souls games is that some ledges and beams you walk on are often unnecessarily slippery, which causes you to fall to your death when you don't even expect to. You slide off them when it's not even obvious that you should, and it makes you feel like if this was a different game, or even real life, that wouldn't have happened, like the tree branch in Blighttown, for example. And I feel like the game is way too picky with places you can stand on near the pits without sliding. It doesn't add challenge, just frustration and deaths that feel undeserved. I think the game would have been only better if it was more generous with your character sliding. I definitely agree with this, and I think this is something that was never addressed really until Elden Ring. And even Elden Ring, there's a couple of moments here and there which are a little bit weird, but for the most part, it's better in Elden Ring. But I personally think this was an issue right up until Dark Souls 3. In the Dark Souls 3 DLC, I think it's the Winter DLC, the one where you fight Sister Marie. That one, or it's not Sister Marie, Sister Fried. I was getting confused with Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower. But Sister Fried, that DLC in Dark Souls 3, there's one part where you're climbing up certain tree branches there, and I was incredibly frustrated by that bit. the beams there, the little tree bits that you're climbing onto, the tree branches that kept sliding off over and over and over again. I personally think it was never addressed, and in my opinion, if you have a kind of gravity system or the sliding off of things system that Dark Souls always had up until Elden Ring, you should not be asking the player to do platforming. Don't get the player to do platforming if you can't build a proper platforming system or a way for you to actually be able to properly navigate on these kind of uneven surfaces. Because a lot of the times it just felt like bullshit, and it felt like you were unfairly being punished for things that weren't even your fault, essentially. You had no way of knowing that you're going to fall there, and then you fall to your death. Elden Ring has pretty much ironed this out for the most part, with a couple of weird moments, but except for those, the game is generally alright now. So, but like I said, in my opinion, if you want the player to do those kind of things, then they should have fine-tuned it, especially in Dark Souls 3. Because I can understand maybe Dark Souls 1, okay, maybe it's the earlier games, they hadn't quite got it right yet, so there's a couple of weird moments. But Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, I think they should have ironed that out, and they should have just made it so there was no platforming at all in those games, and that's what I personally think they should have done. Either have one or have the other. Anyway, that concludes the 4th episode of Fundamental Flaws. Again, make sure to type any flaws down below in the comments if you'd like to be featured in the next episode. And like I said earlier, I'm trying to stick to Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2 and Bloodborne, but I'm still considering things related to Dark Souls 3, Sekiro or Elden Ring if they make for a good enough talking point. A thank you again to my 2 channel members, T-Mort and Just Another Doug. I really appreciate your support, and if any of you would like to help support me even further, so this is more than just a hobby for me, and I can actually take this a little bit more seriously, and it sort of justifies the amount of having the daily upload schedule on this channel, then please, if you can, help support me by becoming a channel member, and you get exclusive early access to my critical analysis videos and several other exclusive benefits that are going to be coming in the near future, as well as members-only posts, which are already up. Anyway, thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Maybe you can share this video with anything you might if it was good enough. Thank you again for watching. This is SoulReborn signing out. Have a good one.